Jai Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's time for Krishna book. This is a spiritual survival technique. During the day, you may have to deal with so many things demanding the attention. And they're all come and go. A week from now, everything that was so important today, I won't even remember. But we deal with what we have to deal with when it's there right in your face. What about this? What about that? You deal with it. But hearing about Krishna, that's eternal activity. Chanting about Krishna, that's eternal activity. That's the same today as it will be tomorrow, as it will be 2 weeks from now, as it will be 1,000 years from now. Because Krishna's eternal. Krishna consciousness, Krishna's personality of Godhead is eternal. And we have an eternal relationship with that personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a spiritual survival technique. Hearing Krishna book, reading Krishna book, and the distractions during the day can be so strong that even when they're gone and they're not right there in your face anymore, and you're quietly preparing to take rest in the evening, you might not want to hear about Krishna because the mind is still buzzing over everything. You just have to do it. And that is the spiritual survival technique. So here we are. Krishna book. Summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is Volume 2, Chapter 11. The Deliverance of Paudraka and the King of Kasi. The story of King Paudraka is very interesting because there have always been many rascals and fools who have considered themselves to be God. Even in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, there was such a foolish person. His name was Paudraka, and he wanted to declare himself to be God. While Lord Balaram was absent in Vrindavan, this King Paudraka, the king of the Kṛṣṇa province, being foolish and puffed up, sent a messenger to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and King Paudraka directly challenged Krishna through the messenger, who stated that Paudraka, not Krishna, was Vasudeva. In the present day, there are many foolish followers of such rascals. Similarly, in his day, many foolish men accepted Paudraka as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he could not estimate his own position, Paudraka falsely thought himself to be Lord Vasudeva. Thus the messenger declared to Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, King Paudraka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had descended on the earth just to deliver all distressed persons. Surrounded by many foolish persons, this rascal Paudraka had actually concluded that he was Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This kind of conclusion is certainly childish. When children are playing, they sometimes create a king amongst themselves, and the child who is selected thinks that he is the king. Similarly, many foolish persons, due to ignorance, select another fool as God, and then the rascal considers himself God, as if God could be created by childish play or by the votes of men. Under this false impression, thinking himself the Supreme Lord, Paudraka sent his messenger to Dwarka to challenge the position of Krishna. The messenger reached the royal assembly of Krishna in Dwarka and conveyed the message given by his master Paudraka. The message contained the following statements. I am the only Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. There's no man who can compete with me. I've descended as King Paudraka, taking compassion on the distressed conditioned souls out of my unlimited causeless mercy. You have falsely taken the position of Vasudeva without authority, but you should not propagate this false idea. You must give up your position. O descendant of the Yadu dynasty, please give up all the symbols of Vasudeva which you falsely assumed, and after giving up this position, come and surrender unto me. If out of your gross impudence you do not care for my words, then I challenge you to fight. I'm inviting you to a battle in which the decision will be settled. When all the members of the royal assembly, including King Kṛṣṇa, heard this message sent by Paudraka, they laughed very loudly for a considerable time. After enjoying the loud laughter of all the members of the assembly, Krishna replied to the messenger as follows. O messenger of Paudraka, you may carry my message to your master. He's a foolish rascal. I directly call him a rascal, and I refuse to follow his instructions. I'll never give up the symbols of Vasudeva, especially my disc. I shall use this disc to kill not only King Paudraka, but all his followers also. I'll destroy Paudraka and his foolish associates, who merely constitute a society of cheaters and cheated. When this action is taken, foolish king, you will have to conceal your face in disgrace, and when your head is severed from your body by my disc, it will be surrounded by meat-eating birds like vultures, hawks, and eagles. At that time, instead of becoming my shelter, as you have demanded, you will be subjected to the mercy of these low-born birds. At that time, your body will be thrown to the dogs, who will eat it with great pleasure. The messenger carried the words of Lord Krishna to his master Paudraka, who patiently heard all these insults. Without waiting longer, Lord Krishna immediately started out on his chariot to punish the rascal Paudraka, because at that time the king of Kṛṣṇa was living with his friend the king of Kashi. Krishna surrounded the whole city of Kashi. King Paudraka was a great warrior, and as soon as he heard of Krishna's attack, he came out of the city along with 2 Akshahini divisions of soldiers. The king of Kashi was also a friend to King Paudraka, and he came out with 3 Akshahini divisions. When the 2 kings came before Lord Krishna to oppose him, Krishna saw Paudraka face to face for the first time. Krishna saw that Paudraka had decorated himself with the symbols of the conch shell, disc, lotus, and clump. He carried the Sangha bow, and on his chest was the insignia of Srivatsa. His neck was decorated with a false Kaustubha jewel, and he wore a flower garland in exact imitation of Lord Vasudeva. He was dressed in yellow-colored silken garments, and the flag on his chariot carried the symbol of Garuda, exactly imitating Krishna's. He had a very valuable helmet on his head, and his earrings, like swordfish, glittered brilliantly. On the whole, however, his dress and makeup were clearly imitation. anyone could understand that he was just someone on stage playing the part of Vasudeva in false dress. When Lord Krishna saw Paudraka imitating his posture and dress, he could not check his laughter, and he laughed with great satisfaction. The soldiers on the side of King Paudraka began to shower their weapons upon Krishna. The weapons, including various kinds of tridents, clubs, poles, lances, swords, daggers, and arrows, came flying in waves, and Krishna counteracted them. He smashed not only the weapons, but also the soldiers and assistants of Paudraka, just as during the dissolution of the universe the fire of devastation burns everything to ashes. The elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry belonging to the opposite party were scattered by the weapons of Krishna. The whole battlefield became scattered with the bodies of animals and chariots. There were fallen horses, elephants, men, asses, and camels. Although the devastated battlefield appeared like the dancing place of Lord Shiva at the time of the dissolution of the world, the warriors who were on the side of Krishna were very much encouraged by seeing this, and they fought with great strength. At this time, Lord Krishna told Paudraka, "Paudraka, you requested me to give up the symbols of Lord Vishnu, specifically my disc. Now I will give it up to you. Be careful, you falsely declare yourself to be Vasudeva, imitating myself. Therefore no one is a greater fool than you." From the statement of Krishna's, it's clear that any rascal who advertises himself as God is the greatest fool in human society. And Krishna continued, "Now, Paudraka, I shall force you to give up this false representation. You wanted me to surrender unto you. Now this is your opportunity. We shall now fight. If I'm defeated and you become victorious, I will certainly surrender unto you." In this way, after chastising Paudraka very severely, he smashed his chariot to pieces by shooting an arrow. With the help of his disc, he separated the head of Paudraka from his body, just as Indra shaves off the peaks of mountains by striking them with his thunderbolt. Similarly, he also killed the king of Kasi with his arrows. Lord Krishna specifically arranged to throw the head of the king of Kasi into the city of Kasi itself, so that his relatives and family members could see it. This was done by Krishna, just as a hurricane carries a lotus petal here and there. Lord Krishna killed Paudraka and his friend Kasiraj on the battlefield, and then he returned home to his capital city, Dwarka. When Lord Krishna returned to the city of Dwarka, all the siddhas from the heavenly planets were singing the glories of the Lord. As far as Paudraka was concerned, somehow or other he was always thinking of Lord Vasudeva by falsely dressing himself in that way, and therefore Paudraka achieved sarupya, one of the 5 kinds of liberation, and thus was promoted to the Vaikuntha planets, where the devotees have the same bodily features as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding the 4 symbols. Factually, his meditation was concentrated on the Vishnu form, but because he thought himself to be Lord Vishnu, it was offensive. After being killed by Krishna, however, the offense was also mitigated, and thus he was given sarupya liberation. He attained the same form as the Lord. When the head of the king of Kasi was thrown through the city gate, people gathered and were astonished to see that wonderful thing. When they found out that there were earrings on it, they could understand it was someone's head. They conjectured as to whose head it might be. Some thought it was Krishna's head, because Krishna was the enemy of Kasiraj, and they calculated that the king of Kasi might have thrown Krishna's head into the city, so people might take pleasure that the enemy was killed. But it was finally detected that the head was not Krishna's, but was that of Kasiraj himself. When it was so ascertained, the queens of King Kasi immediately approached and began to lament the death of their husband. "Our dear Lord," they cried, "upon your death we have become just like dead bodies." The king of Kasi had one son whose name was Sudakshina. After observing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies, he took a vow that since Krishna was the enemy of his father, he would kill Krishna, and in this way liquidate his debts to his father. Therefore, accompanied by a learned priest qualified to help him, he began to worship Mahadev, Lord Shiva. The Lord of the kingdom of Kasi is Vishwanath, Lord Shiva. The temple of Lord Vishwanath is still existing in Varanasi, and many thousands of pilgrims still gather daily in that temple. By the worship of Sudakshina, Lord Shiva was very much pleased, and he wanted to give a benediction to his devotee. Sudakshina's purpose was to kill Krishna, and therefore he prayed for a specific power by which he could kill him. Lord Shiva advised that Sudakshina, assisted by the Brahmins, execute the ritualistic ceremony for killing one's enemy. The ceremony is also mentioned in some of the Tantras. Lord Shiva informed Sudakshina that if such a black ritualistic ceremony were performed properly, then the evil spirit named Dakshinagni would appear to carry out any order given to him. He would have to be employed, however, to kill someone other than a qualified Brahmin. In such a case, he would be accompanied by Lord Shiva's ghostly companions, and the desire of Sudakshina to kill his enemy would be fulfilled. When Sudakshina was encouraged by Lord Shiva in that way, he became assured that he would be able to kill Krishna. With a determined vow of austerity, he began to execute the black art of chanting mantras, assisted by the priest. After this, out of the fire came a great demonic form, whose hair, beard, and mustache were exactly the color of hot copper. This form was very big and fierce. As the demon arose from the fire, cinders of fire emanated from the sockets of his eyes. The giant fiery demon appeared still more fierce due to the movements of his eyebrows. He exhibited long, sharp teeth, and, sticking out his long tongue, licked both sides of his lips. He was naked, and he carried a big trident which was blazing like fire. After appearing from the fire of sacrifice, he stood, wielding the trident in his hand. Instigated by Sudakshina, the demon proceeded toward the capital city Dwarka, along with many hundreds of ghostly companions, and it appeared he was going to burn all outer space to ashes. The surface of the earth trembled because of his striking steps. When he entered the city of Dwarka, all the residents panicked, just like animals at the time of a forest fire. At that time, Krishna was engaged in playing chess in the Royal Assembly Council Hall. All the residents of Dwarka approached him and addressed him. "Dear Lord of the three worlds, there's a great fiery demon ready to burn the whole city of Dwarka. Please save us." Thus, after approaching Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Dwarka began to appeal to him for protection from the fiery demon who had just appeared in Dwarka to devastate the whole city. Lord Krishna, who specifically protects his devotees, saw that the whole population of Dwarka was most perturbed by the presence of the great fiery demon. He immediately began to smile and assure them, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is all-pervading. He is within everyone's heart, and he is without also in the form of the cosmic manifestation. He can understand that the fiery demon was a creation of Lord Shiva, and in order to vanquish him, he took his Sudarshan chakra and ordered him to take the necessary steps. The Sudarshan chakra appeared with the effulgence of millions of suns, his temperature being as powerful as the fire created at the end of the cosmic manifestation. By his own effulgence, the Sudarshan chakra began to illuminate the entire universe, on the surface of the earth as well as in outer space. Then Sudarshan chakra began to freeze the fiery demon created by Lord Shiva. In this way, the fiery demon was checked by the Sudarshan chakra of Lord Krishna. and being defeated in his attempt to devastate the city of Dwarka, he turned back. Having failed to set fire to Dwarka, he went back to Varanasi, the kingdom of Kasiraj. As a result of his return, all the priests who had helped instruct the black art of mantras, along with their employer, Kṛṣṇa, were burnt into ashes by the glaring effulgence of the fiery demon. According to the methods of black art mantras instructed in the Tantra, if the mantra fails to kill the enemy, then, because it must kill someone, it kills the original creator. Kṛṣṇa was the originator, and the priests assisted him, therefore all of them were burnt to ashes. This is the way of the demons. The demons create something to kill God, but by the same weapon the demons themselves are killed. Following just behind the fiery demon, the Sudarsana Chakra also entered Varanasi. The city of Varanasi had been very opulent and great for a very long time. Even now the city of Varanasi is very opulent and famous. It's one of the important cities of India. There were then many big palaces, assembly houses, marketplaces, and gates, with very important large monuments by the palaces and gates. Lecturing platforms could be found at each and every crossing of the roads. There was a treasury house, and elephant heads, horse heads, chariots, granaries, and places for distribution of foodstuff. The city of Varanasi had been filled with all these material opulences for a very long time. But because the king of Kasi and his son Kṛṣṇa were against Lord Krishna, the Vishnu Chakra Sudarshan, the disc weapon of Lord Krishna, devastated the whole city by burning all these important places. This excursion was more ravaging than modern bombing. The Sudarsana Chakra, having thus finished his duty, came back to his lord, Sri Krishna, at Dwarka. This narration of the devastation of Varanasi by Krishna's disc weapon, the Sudarsana Chakra, is transcendental and auspicious. Anyone who narrates this story, or anyone who hears this story with faith and attention, will be released from all reaction to sinful activities. This is the assurance of Sukadeva Goswami, who narrated this story to Parikshit Maharaj. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 11th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Paudraka and King of Kasi.